So, okay, so I think we have our session on think, right?
Yes.
So, there is an old saying, and I kind of go back to when I started this project almost 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
My research showed that we are what we think, what we eat, and what we do. So,
Yeah, I agree.
think is a very big part of us, and it molds our way of looking at everything. So, I'll go back to you and see what you think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that a lot of our own um, kind of perception of life and everything that we're doing on a daily basis stems from our thinking. And I'm a big believer in positive thinking. I'm a big believer in, trying to look at the positive side of every situation, because even though some things may be harder than others and maybe definitely hard to turn to a positive side, if you try to find some sort of positive angle, I believe that you will find a solution much better. Just because when we're thinking positively, when we're putting optimism into our bodies and our brains, it runs through our bodies, so it helps calms us down. It helps bring the stress down, and it helps us see the bigger picture and sometimes, the answer to our problem. But if we only focus on the negatives, we are keeping that stress in our bodies, we're keeping that stress in our minds, and we're kind of blocking ourselves from trying to find an answer or a solution, or coping with something. So I'm a big believer in positive thinking because I think that it can completely change our perspective and change the way that we look at things, and then and then do things and then feel things, and then again, make us feel better and just feel healthier at the end of the day. Because if we're trying to create a positive mindset, then we create a positive routine, and at the end of the day it can only help us. So that's kind of my process here.
Yeah, and you said it very well. In fact, um, there was the start of this project was with a friend of mine. She also was a professor in our department next door, which was art. So I was a professor in design. She was a professor in art. She wrote the New York's bestseller called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And her philosophy was that if you activate the right side of your brain, which is actually the side of our brain which is creative, intuitive, positive, um, and just has a better sense of connection with us. The left brain is more analytical. It's like program, math, numbers, but not really, there is no intuition, there is no connection. So it boiled down to that both designers and artists, if they can activate right side of their brain, or you may say if they can think from the right side of the brain and sort of activate that, they're able to be more creative.
Yeah.
And it's drawing or designing or whatever. So it kind of, having learned that, I would try to insist in my classes that everybody will be positively thinking and smiling and happy. And if someone wasn't smiling and didn't look happy, I would say, hey, Karla, why don't you take a break, go take a walk, get some coffee, come back when you're smiling. And people sometimes were okay with it, sometimes didn't like it, because they said,
Yeah.
oh, in his class, you got to be smiling, otherwise he kicks you out. So,
Yeah.
but the thing which I learned was to, like you said yourself, be a positive thinker. So even things which were bothersome, which were negative, which were outright unacceptable, I would try to see if there is a way to I can turn it around into positive thinking. If I can find something positive in it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, positivity kind of
Yeah, I mean,
attracts positivity and negativity attracts
exactly.
negativity.
I
And that's
mean,
how it is.
even people, sometimes we have this perception of someone that you say, oh my God, I hate that person. Well, you don't have to go that far of saying you hate somebody. You
Yeah.
may say, well, is there any way I can find something positive in this person?
Mm-hmm.
Or, even in the political realm, like um, a while back, I was very, uh, very critical of our ex-president, Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, well, I just don't like someone who can lie so much and be so deceitful, dishonest, and this and that. And then I said, well, I understand, but again, is there anything positive about him?
Mm-hmm.
So then I found a bunch of stuff that he was doing. I agreed with. I said, okay, so let me just focus on the positive side. Some of his policies are not bad. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, true, he's not the kind of a person I like to be friends with,
Yeah.
but he still has some silver lining. There's some things that he did and the policies that he had, the economic struggles we had, he was good about it. So the point is that if you focus on the positive side of things, you do find positive things. And you don't have to suffer from being negative. In fact, my wife always looked at the negative side of things. and,
Yeah.
and we'll be driving together and she'll be upset with somebody and saying negative things. I said, listen, you don't have the responsibility of teaching and correcting the word out there. Let it be. If someone is not driving properly, let that be their problem, not your problem.
True. True, but that's very hard to do. But basically that is kind of one of the problems that we deal with today. People are generally very negative. They are.
Right.
And with COVID, people became even more negative.
Yes.
And I'm telling you this because I'm currently in Croatia, in my home country, and we are a very negative nation. And throughout my whole life, I knew that I never wanted to live here because the community and the people here are very negative. They just are. And they don't support you when you create something of your own. They don't support you when you have ideas. They just squash it down. So basically that negativity turns into a big negative cloud that keeps on following everybody around. And then when something crazy happens, like this corona or the earthquake that we had last year here or stuff like that, it just creates something even worse. And then at the end of the day, you have people who are very miserable, who are very bitter, and who are just negative. And then all that negativity just, it turns everything just very depressive.
Ah,
And people just become very, like, you can see people walking down the street, they look unhappy. Could be going totally fine, but they just look unhappy. And then they attract that. So when you try to find something positive in a negative situation, you're also actually helping yourself, because you're trying to bring, to bring your happiness level up, like your joy score, basically. you're
yeah,
you're trying to bring your serotonin up. You're trying to invoke positive attitude from other people into your life as well, because if you're upbeat and happy, people around you, it's very hard for them to not be, because
yeah.
positive energy is very, very, attractive, and it's very easy to be transferred, as is negative energy. So you would always like to be around somebody who is happy, not somebody who's, just moping around, being all depressive. So that's why when it comes to
Well,
positive
I think
thinking,
you said it very well, and I admire you because one of the things that you said can make a difference in their lives is by just being positive and saying, "Look, I have decided just to be positive, just to have a joyful life, and
yeah, no matter what.
no matter what, exactly." And that's who I am. And I'm sorry that I may sound different or behave differently or act differently. But this was a decision I made a while back, to be positive about everything, to be happy about everything, to just have this mindset where I'm trying to constantly improve my joy score, And by the
Yeah.
way, there is an app, and I can get you a free link to it, which can help you improve your joy score, because uh,
Yeah.
life is about that. In fact, I've been thinking for last few days that perhaps, and I have to work with Dave and do a little more analysis, but I think the subscription for JoyScore should be absolutely at the cost level, meaning we
Mhm.
should not uh, let the valuation be very high, but the uh, charging people should be minimal.
Mhm.
And when we go to the B2B settings like companies, we can say, look, you got to subscribe for a company rate, but the individual rate should be lower, and things like that. Like
Mhm.
I have released the app in India for free because people are suffering from COVID, and Dikshi's research shows that it can be a significant factor in their life of immunity and fighting COVID and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the point of it is, the end of the day, that if we are all about joy, and in fact, I forgot to send you this new thing I wrote, and I didn't copy you. Soon, can you copy her what I sent this morning about improving your joy score, happiness, and yeah. So the point is that improving your joy score, comma, happiness, or reducing your stress level, um, based on medical research, shows that is good for our health and
Mhm.
success. So that being the fundamental reality of life at Joy School, where we have learned now, and we have even scientific and medical research to support this idea,
Mhm.
then this is like maybe something we have stumbled into. When I started this 30 years ago, all I was trying to do was to help my students become successful. And
Mm-hmm.
I learned for them to be successful, they have to think well, eat well, and do well.
Yeah.
But now I said, Vikshi, can you look into that? And she found all this information. I said, oh my God, this is this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's not why I was really doing this, or I had any idea of the significance of joy score being so meaningful in people's life. But now that I learned all this, I believe that this is like the magic pill for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They can just benefit from it so well, so much that molding their thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
if
it's free.
it's
That's
free,
it.
in fact, if
Yeah.
they can just listen to you and say, hey, it doesn't cost you anything to be positive.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And you can try it and see if you feel better or not. Because anything you're being negative about, let's try it. See if you can find a way to be positive about it. And then compare the two and see
Mm-hmm.
which one you feel better about.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like positivity is free, kindness is free,
Mm-hmm.
being good to yourself is free, loving yourself is free. I mean, when you were telling me that you drive down the street and you see people all unhappy and depressed, it's like, does someone ask them? I say, listen, by the way, to feel good is free.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
It doesn't cost you a dime, you can just feel free for good. Be positive for good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but it's hard, because you have to do it yourself.
Yeah, but it's
And
a matter of learning how to do things differently.
yeah,
It's like if you've always done something certain way and someone is telling you to do it differently,
yeah,
initially there is a resistance to
yeah, of
it.
course.
And you have to slowly, in fact, you can pick anyone close to you, around you, in the family and friends, who you feel is suffering from negativity. And,
Mm,
and if you could convince them, and however it works, uh, to try out being positive and see
hmm.
how it goes, and
Yeah,
listen. You can stay your way and be negative and all that if you don't find any benefit in it. But at least try it out.
yeah. All you
So
have to do is try. Yeah,
try it, yeah.
yeah. And then, that's why apps like JoyScore can be there to help them and support them on the journey,
Right.
because they can have some good ideas as to how to help them, when they find themselves in a negative situation, or when they're surrounded by negative people, because, sometimes you can feed off of that energy. And even if you woke up and you felt great and you had a great morning, and then you go into a meeting where there are a lot of negative people there, you will get out of that meeting and you will be negative yourself, because
Yeah.
that's just how the world works. So if you open your app then and be like, okay, these are a few things that I can try to get myself back on track, and they can help you, then, we made a big difference in that person's life.
You know, did you ever smoke by any chance?
No.
Okay. So till 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a smoker.
Mm-hmm.
And in early 80s, when I became a professor, 78, um, I had a problem where I was too young. And sometimes the students in my class were older than me.
Oh
And
wow.
I had a hard time convincing them that I am the professor. So
Mm-hmm.
I grew a little beard, goatee, and then started smoking pipe, just to look professorial.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started smoking, moves on. And then I got to a point I couldn't quit. I tried everything, it just didn't work. And finally, I found someone who was recommended to me through hypnosis and discussions, convinced me to quit smoking. And so when I go to meet him, I sit in his office and I see all these celebrities' pictures, Oprah Winfrey and Charlize Theron and all these people. I said, what are all these pictures for? He said, these are all the people I helped them quit smoking. I said, you've got to be kidding me.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, listen, you have to pay me each time we meet, and it's $600 an hour. I said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, but you cannot quit before the third session. I
Mm-hmm.
said, why? What if I want to quit today? He said, no, you can't. You have to wait till the third session. I said, well, I'm willing to pay you for all 3 sessions if I want to quit today. He said, no, you can't, because it doesn't work like that. I have a system, I have a program, and it's going to take 3 sessions. I said, okay, I'll follow your lead. You just tell me what to do and how to do it and so on. So I realized that he knew what he was doing. So he was just talking and convincing me to realize that there is no need for me to smoke. It's
Mm-hmm.
psychological more than anything else. And he would talk to me simple realities. He said, do you have kids? I said, yeah, I have 3 boys. He said, if one of them was playing with a loaded gun, would you be okay with that? I said, no, I'll take the gun away. He said, why? If he wants to play with the loaded gun, why do you want to take it away? He said, because it's dangerous. He said,
Mm-hmm.
well, what is smoking? Is it not dangerous to you? I said, yeah, but... He said, what do you mean, yeah, but... I mean, it is the same thing. You're playing with a loaded gun every day, You know that it's going to kill you one day, but you just don't care. You keep playing with it. So
Yeah.
the point of it was that sometimes the way someone talks to you about certain aspects of life, it gets convinced. And so by the third session that I met with him, I was already convinced that I absolutely have no desire to smoke anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got in the third session, he said, are you ready to quit? I said, yeah, absolutely. He said, you don't want to smoke anymore? I said, no, there's no reason to. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like hypnosis or not, the point was that either it was too expensive to keep paying him $600 each time I saw him, or it was just that I was ready to quit. But the same thing I have noticed now, some people very politely
Mm-hmm.
tell others that, listen, I used to be a smoker, and if you don't mind, not smoke too close to me, or if you can move further away a little bit, or something like that. And you can be polite to them. So the same way I was saying to myself when you said, if you go into a meeting and everybody's negative, and you realize that, look, by the time I get out of this meeting, I'll be negative myself, So
Mm.
you tell everybody, I say, I'm sorry, but I have this philosophy or belief that I have to be positive, you know. And I appreciate you all want to be negative, which is perfectly okay with me. But
Yeah.
please don't try to convince me to be negative,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
I have decided for my own life that I want to be positive about everything in life. So
Exactly.
even in this meeting, you may find me contradicting you, but it's not for any reason other than the fact that I just have this belief system in life to be positive.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeking your permission to be positive.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, if you don't want to be near a smoker, you can tell him very politely, you say, listen, I prefer not to smoke with you,
That's true. That's
Or I
true.
have a young child, which certainly does not appreciate smoke, and I can't expose my son to a smoke, things like that. So I think positivity has a huge meaning in our life.
Yes, that's for sure. And people don't even understand how much it can, impact their daily lives. And it's not something that they need to be very, um, very, very experienced in. It's very easy to get to that point, but you just have to want to get to that point, and that is the biggest problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we are now at the end of our podcast session. And I thank you, Karla, for joining our podcast about think.